And then the next thing, it was like, and you're back in the room. And I was like, oh my gosh, where did I go? Kind of thing. And that was the kind of intense vision that I've had. I don't get them all the time. It's a once in a while thing. When it happens, I guess is when I need to get whatever message it is. Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is Taj, aka MahTaj Massage, and this is MahTaj Midas Living. As you can probably tell from the title, or if you just watched my previous video in this series, you will know that this particular video is going to be breaking down spiritual gifts. Excuse the sirens outside. I live on a main road. But yeah, as I was saying, this video is going to be breaking down spiritual gifts. I'm going to be cross-referencing some passages where it is touched upon. And then I'm also going to be talking about some of the gifts from the list that I actually have myself. If you're enjoying this content and we vibe, please join the tribe and make sure that you like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you will be notified of when I have new content out. Thank you. Another name for spiritual gifts is spiritual discernment. And I honestly believe that we all have access to these gifts within us, especially the closer that we get to God. I feel like they tend to manifest more. And I also believe that when you are in a state closer to innocence, so that of children, for example, I believe that they naturally have a lot of these gifts without us even knowing. Spiritual discernment is defined as the following: perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding. So this is the ability to see, feel, or hear, for example, things that you can't see in the physical world, or you can't explain those kind of things. I would say it's something that is more classed as paranormal or spiritually related. So if you heard a voice, but that voice isn't coming from around you, you can't physically see where that voice is coming through, or like guidance. Sometimes it's the little voice in your head telling you to do the right thing, those kind of things there. Or you get a feeling not to go somewhere for whatever reason that may be. You plan to go somewhere and then you just get that intense feeling of like, don't go there, don't go. So you decide not to go, and then you find out that the bus that you were going to take, or the train you were going to take, or the route you were going to take, there was a terrible accident or something like that. For example, some of the people, when it was 9/11, there were people that were meant to go to work that day, and for whatever reason they didn't go to work, and then look what happened. I'm sure there's loads of you that have been in similar scenarios where something's told you not to go to something, or it's been cancelled unexpected, and you're pissed off, like, fuck's sakes, like, I just want to do what I'm doing, and then something happens and you hear and you're like, oh my God, thank God I never went there. I know I have. So all this goes a step further from our intuition or gut feeling that we tend to have. It's a lot stronger than that, and that is because it is a gift from the Holy Spirit. The Bible speaks of these gifts being given to us from God, and it makes sense that these are gifts because not everyone has access to these. You have to open yourself up to receiving God to be able to receive these gifts, which makes so much sense. And it speaks of this in the first book of Corinthians, chapter 2, and the verses are 12 to 14, which I will read out quickly. So it says, now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit which of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God, which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but with the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto them, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. which makes sense with what I was just saying. We all have potential to access these gifts, but you have to believe in God, you have to welcome God into your life, and that way you can receive the Holy Spirit to be able to receive these gifts, whether you have one of them, some of them, or all of them. The first book of Corinthians also breaks down what these gifts are one by one, and this is in chapter 12, verse 8 to 10. I'm just going to read these out quickly as well. Maybe you'll recognize some of these gifts within yourself too. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another the gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another diverse kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. So that's all the gifts there broken down. I actually have some of these gifts myself, which I've noticed more and more over the years. Some I've kind of just been like, oh, brushed it off. Others I'm like, actually, that's definitely a gift. So I'm just going to break down some of the ones that I have. And also, if you have any of these gifts, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear about your spiritual gifts that you have too. So one of the gifts that I have is the gift of visions. So I wouldn't say that I can control the gifts that I have, because I don't have control over them. They just work when they need to work, if that makes sense. I wish I could control them, but I can't. I guess God just gives me like a little power up or a little boost when I need to use these gifts. So the one with visions, sometimes I get the answers for things or the ideas of things that I should be doing through visions. So I can just be minding my own business, kind of daydreaming or actually meditating, and I will get these intense downloads or ideas. But sometimes it's like I can see the ideas of whatever it is. So for example, me doing YouTube is one of the divine downloads that I received. I never in a million years thought I would be doing YouTube, as I mentioned before, but God was guiding me on that path, and I was getting all these intense ideas of things, and these ideas weren't coming from me because I wasn't even thinking about doing YouTube before. As I said, I was doing Instagram for my business, and the random ideas that I was receiving were for longer videos, more in-depth videos, and more related to things like topics like these. Even this series that I'm doing, the idea didn't come from me. I can't even take credit for that. I have to give that credit to God, because I was minding my own business. Then all these ideas started rushing in, and I was like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing content to put out there. So here I am. I'm trying to think of an intense vision that I had where it literally felt like I went somewhere else. So there was a time where I was kind of daydreaming. As I mentioned before, I am a twin flame. There was one time I was sitting on my sofa at home, having a bit of a smoke and just chilling, unwinding for the evening, like just a bog standard evening for me, basically. And I remember just closing my eyes for a bit. I think I was listening to music at the time. I can't really remember. And as I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, I kid you not, I saw my twin flame having a conversation with his mum about me. And I know many will just be like, oh, you was probably just daydreaming. It wasn't really anything, like you just imagined it. Da, 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 da. It was so real. I could literally hear their conversation. I could see them talking to each other. I heard them talk about me. Like, I heard the whole conversation. And then the next thing, it was like, and you're back in the room. And I was like, oh my gosh, where did I go? Kind of thing. And that was the kind of intense vision that I've had. I don't get them all the time. It's a once in a while thing. When it happens, I guess is when I need to get whatever message it is. Something else I've had visions about is I've been doing a lot of research. Well, actually, no, I haven't been. That's a lie. That is a lie. I've been doing a little bit of research into Hebrew Israelites and how that interlinks with twin flames and that kind of stuff. And even looking into that in regards to the two being linked was an idea from God. That didn't come from me either. So I can't even take credit for that. And it's kind of led me down this rabbit hole, but that's something I will talk on in a future video because I need to do a lot more research into that. But back on topic in regards to the downloads, in regards to that, there was a night not too long ago where I couldn't get to sleep because I was getting constant visions and ideas of these things that weren't coming from me. I was just trying to get to sleep, and I think I went to bed maybe like midnight that night, which is pretty early for me, to be fair. That's like a normal time for me to go to bed. And I was listening to a meditation as I normally do. I think the meditation finished, I was still awake, and I was really, really, really restless. And then I was just trying to close my eyes and sleep, and then I was just getting a rush of ideas with all these different things to do with what I wanted to then go into research. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a really interesting point. And I've got a notebook that's by my bed, so when I get random ideas in the night, or if there's something I'm trying to remember, those kind of things, or even if there's stuff on my mind, I'll sit up in bed, write down everything in my notebook to kind of get it out of my brain so that I can rest. So I thought, okay, let me just write this stuff down and then I'll be able to sleep. Didn't happen. It got to about 2 a.m. and I was wide awake, and I was still getting more and more ideas flowing through me of things that I need to look into, things that I'm being led and guided to look at and research. And I was like, this stuff is not coming from me. Like, this must be stuff that God wants me to look into. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen. So I got up out of bed. At this point I was wide awake now, so I was just like, it is what it is. God doesn't want me to sleep tonight. I'm just gonna have to follow the guidance. And then I started watching some videos that were related to what I was guided to write down. And you know, when things just start, all the pieces of the puzzle start adding up, and you're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. You know, like when you see those people on those screens in the futuristic films and they're like going like that on the screen and all of that stuff, it kind of felt like it was coming together in that way. And I was just like, okay, God, I'm not meant to be sleeping. I think that day I went to bed about 5:30 a.m. because all these ideas and information was just rushing through me, and I could just see it all, and I was just like, I have to get it written down before I forget. And it was just very, very intense. I was definitely knackered the next day when I woke up, because it kind of threw me off my timetable of what I wanted to do the next day. But it is what it is. I needed to receive that message, and I'm thankful that I was used as a tool to receive those messages. So that is the end of my part on visions. The next gift I want to talk about is the gift of tongues. So that is both understanding and also being able to speak in tongues. And when I say tongues, I'm not talking about when it kind of sounds like gibberish, and I don't even mean that in a disrespectful way, but it's where it's not a known language. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being able to understand a language that I know a little bit of, but the way that I was able to understand it and speak it, I shouldn't have been able to without some sort of outside or spiritual help. So this was when I went to Cuba. I went to Cuba on holiday back in 2019 for Christmas. So I did Spanish at school. I did Spanish GCSE, but I would never say that I'm fluent in Spanish. I did all right in it. I think I got a B. I think I got a B without like really trying. And I've always said that I can understand more Spanish than I can speak, but what I could understand is still very, very limited. Like I can do things like order food in a restaurant. I can get the check. I can have minimal conversation, like just very, very basic stuff, but I could understand more than that. So we went to Cuba, and this is turning into a little story time. And the whole time we were there, where we were staying, there were pretty much no tourists, and the way the Spanish language was just flowing out of me, I didn't know where it was. I honestly didn't know where it was coming from. So for example, our suitcases went missing when we landed, and then we had to go and get them the next day. So they wanted us to wait, I think 2 days for them to drop our cases off, and I was like, I just want to get my stuff. So we asked our rep, we were like, can we just go and get it ourselves? He kind of looked at us like we were crazy, going like, why do you want to do it yourself when they can bring it to you? But we just wanted our stuff. So we went to the airport. The next day I asked where the section was where I needed to go and collect lost cases. So they directed me to that part of the airport where I needed to go. This was all in Spanish, by the way. Went round to that section. Then I spoke to the guy and I was like, oh, excuse me. I was like, this is all in Spanish as well. I was like, we arrived yesterday. I'm looking for our suitcases. We flew in with whatever airline it was. I can't even remember the airline. Said all what I was saying. And then the guy was like, ah. So I was like, at that point, I was like, yes, he understood me. Good, good, good. So then he takes me through. I go get our suitcases, all of that stuff. I was able to send food back in the restaurant, say that I'm not paying for certain parts. I was haggling for taxis. I was talking to local people in the queues in the supermarkets and all of that stuff. So much so to the point that they thought I was Cuban. It's like we looked the part because we just blended in. But my Spanish was so good that they thought I was Cuban. And I don't know where these words were coming from. I thought it was me like channeling my great grandmother who was Cuban. I was thinking maybe she's helping me, but it had to be God. It must be the whole thing with speaking in tongues. There's no other way that I can explain this because I don't know that much Spanish. Like the amount that I was speaking, you would have pretty much thought I was fluent, because it was only in the times where I wasn't in a state of like flowing that I had to think about things that I was saying. So when I was overthinking it, going, oh, how do I say this, and this? I'd have to really think about it. And then I'd speak to someone. But when it kind of just happened on me, it was just coming out. And I was just like, wow. In my head, I was like, where is this coming from, Taj? Like, how do you know this much Spanish? And that's the only way that I can explain it. So if it's for the point where, get your words out. If I was able to speak Spanish to the point where Cubans thought I was Cuban, you know I was speaking Spanish extremely well. Because they'd be like, when it would get to a point where I was kind of like, oh, I don't know what to say now, I don't know what to say, and kind of get stuck after having a conversation with a local, I'd have to stop and be like, I'm sorry, I'm English, I don't understand. And that would be when I'd get into my head instead of just being in the flow of it. And then they'd be like, oh my gosh, but you speak Spanish really well and you look Cuban, like all in Spanish. And I'd be like, I know. I'm like, but I'm English. And then that would when I'd be out of my state of flow and I'd just have to kind of think about it again. But I hope that happens to me with other languages. It would be pretty interesting. Has anyone else had experiences like that where they just go on autopilot to speak another language? I would be interested to know. Let me know in the comments below. Another gift that I have, and this is one that I am fully aware that I have, I just don't know how to control it. As I said, a lot of the times these things just flow through me when I need to know what I need to know, and that is the gift of prophecy. So those of you who know me well know that I say that I'm a little bit psychic, but I just don't know how to control it. It's just I have this foresight of scenarios or things that are going on, and I will be able to tell you exactly what is going to happen before it happens. So one of the predominant memories of this for me was when my older sister was having twins. So she didn't know she was having twins. Nobody knew that they were having twins. When she announced her pregnancy, everyone was all excited. We got all over that initial moment, and then I said to her, you're having twins? Like, I know you're having twins. She's like, oh, whatever, you're chatting rubbish, da da da. And I was like, no, honestly, you're having twins. I know that you're having twins. Couldn't explain how I knew that, why I knew that, where this information was coming from. I could just feel it. And I knew with every fiber of my being that my sister was having twins. She went for the scan. There's twins. They are, as far as I'm aware, the first identical twins in my family. How did I know that? Someone please tell me, how did I know that? The only answer is that it was a gift for me to know that information. There's been other situations as well where I've had moments of prophecy where I can see scenarios happening before they happen. And I don't mean like far into the distant future. Actually, kind of as well, actually. Before I go on to that one, I want to talk about the year 2020. So before we transitioned into the year 2020, I had an intense feeling before the end of 2019 that something massive on a global scale was going to happen in 2020. I couldn't explain what it was going to be. I didn't know how it was going to manifest. I just knew something big was going to happen. And then look what happened, and look where we are now. There is a lot of global revolution happening. And how did I know that? How could I predict that without it being a gift? It's not like I have some crystal ball or anything. And I feel like that's what's helped me navigate through what should have been a terrible year, but it was actually quite a positive one. I think it's because I had that inner knowing that something massive was going to happen, so I was kind of already prepared for it. But yeah, back to when this happens, but in a less severe way, or I guess not far into the distance, is when I could be out and about with friends and I see a scenario happening before it happens. Like I literally see the whole thing play out. So for example, I'm trying to think, there was a time I was at a friend's house and I could literally see all the actions that friend was going to do before they did it. And I didn't say anything. I was just saw it happen, and then the exact scenario happened straight off, like the exact scenario of what I just saw in my head, where in my mind's eye played out. And it wasn't anything major, it was just like something minor. I don't even remember what it was, but I was just like, I literally just saw that happen, and now it's happening for real. I was just like, this is weird. I think was I smoking? I don't remember if I was smoking. So if I was smoking at the time, I probably just put it down to that, but it wasn't me smoking that caused that. That definitely happened, because it's happened to me a few times where I've seen scenarios happen before they happen, and then I'm like, oh my god. I think it's happened to my brother a couple of times as well, where he's seen things like that. So it's very interesting. Have you ever had a prophecy or a second sight of something happening before it happens? Let me know again in the comments below. The last one could be a gift depending on your perception of it. So for me, this is the gift of healing. And I'm not saying that I lay hands on people and raise them from the dead, or lay hands on people and cure their illnesses and stuff, but I believe that I've been led on the path of healing in regards to the work that I do in my business, being a massage therapist and acupuncturist, because I love helping people and making people feel better, helping them to take control of their own health in a more holistic approach, and that would be in terms of their mind, body and spirit. And I guess, yeah, so with that work, I would say that is a type of healing. Not everyone will agree with that, and that's okay as well, but I believe that part of the work that I do is a spiritual gift from God as well, especially when I get certain feedback from clients and they're like, oh, I've been having this issue for so long, I've been having this issue for years, and now that I've had treatment with you, I don't feel anywhere near as bad as I used to, and that will be after like one treatment. And I'm honestly like, wow, like how did I do that? Like obviously I know what I'm doing with regards to my work, but for someone to go from one extreme of pretty much not being able to do anything at all, always being in pain, to them saying that they feel like they're completely normal now. And I know it's not just the techniques I'm using. I know that it's God working through me to enable me to be able to do that and help people and serve and do that kind of work. So it's just interesting to know. And then even certain scenarios where I've experienced healing from others as well. So I've had Reiki healing in the past. I've only had one session, but honestly, the way that I was feeling prior to me having that Reiki session, I felt healed. I felt like a new person. So I felt like I had all these energy blocks prior to me having that treatment session. And then after having the Reiki, I did feel healed. So I genuinely believe that there are people who do have these gifts running through them. And it's just interesting to see others with those gifts, and I feel so blessed that I have more than one of these gifts as well, and the only person I can thank for that is God, honestly. And I just have to give thanks every single day, and I have to do right by that and honor these gifts and do the right thing with these gifts. Let me know if you have any spiritual gifts yourself. I would love to hear about them. And also, if we vibe, join the tribe and make sure that you like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and share the video if you thought it was useful, if you think any of your friends will enjoy it. Thank you for your time again.